And although I wasn't the perfect Christian for all those years, I could do the best of my ability to be all in for him now and to tell others about him, because he is the only source of hope we have, because the world is fleeting and temporary. Everything else is worthless without Christ. I've been part of this church actually since 1981. And it's just been a really, it was a shocking experience when we first came to this church. I had been in a traditional church all my life. I was 26 years old, and as we came to community church, I noticed they had Bibles there that they used every Sunday, and I had never picked up or read a Bible before I was 26 years old, which I was in 1980. And one of the neatest things I think that happened at that first church meeting is somebody invited us to a Bible study. I remember being involved in these small groups and just learning about God and just how we could have a relationship with him. And that's something I did not know about. I didn't think that was something that was even possible. So I was kind of hesitant. I remember going to small groups and getting to know many more people than I would have known them at church. So anyway, I got closer to God, I think, at that time, and I started telling my neighbors about it, people at work. But I think as time went on, I started getting into the world more again, and I was kind of going through the motions. I'd go to church every Sunday. I would go to the Bible study, but yet I didn't feel like God was number one here yet. But then trials and tribulations started hitting our family. In 2013, I had fallen at work and I had torn a meniscus in my knee, and they said that I would need a knee replacement. So I got a knee replacement, and I was pretty much out of commission for 3 months. I couldn't work. 2014, my wife was diagnosed with MS, and so it's been 11 years that she's had that. It almost seemed like as our health was on the decline, so was my spiritual walk with the Lord. And I started investing a lot of my time after 2013 into my job. And it was like I would still read the Bible occasionally. I had memorized a lot of verses, but I could recite verses to anybody, but I wasn't really living them in my heart, because I'd go to work and be one person, and I'd come to church and be another. But in 2018, something drastically happened that changed my life forever. I came down with a blood disease that just obliterated my body. It penetrated into my left knee where the implant was, and my whole body just swelled up on me, and they couldn't help me anymore at St. Agnes Hospital, so they transported me to UW-Madison University Hospital. And for 85 days, I was in rehab centers and hospitals. And my wife told me, I don't even remember this part of it, but I was on my deathbed 4 different times where they thought they lost me. And anyway, this last time was the most impactful to me, because they took me from Harbor Haven which is a nursing home, a rehab center. And they drove me by ambulance to UW-Madison Hospital. And all I could remember is how uncomfortable the ride was. And we get into Madison, and I hear this siren. They're on the main street in Madison. And I said, somebody must really be sick, because I hear this siren going off all the time. And here it was my siren. I was totally losing my mind. But it's our ambulance getting me to the hospital at UW. And I remember getting there, and I remember the only words that I said there as I tried to sit up at my bed, I said, I can't breathe. And all of a sudden, I was gone. I couldn't remember anything after that. I was in a coma for 3 days. That night, even though I was in a coma, I could hear my family talking around me. And I remember saying, I just want to tell them I love them, and I couldn't talk. I had this big tube down my throat. But through this coma, I had felt so much peace and serenity I've never felt before in my life. And I attribute that to verses I had memorized over the years of God's comfort, His do not be anxious about anything, but in everything, with prayer and petition, make requests be made known to God. And the peace that passes all understanding will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. I felt that peace during that coma. And as I woke up, I see 2 people standing next to the bed. And I really thought I had died and gone to heaven. But Amanda takes my hand and says, Dad, you're going to be okay. And I said, you're not angels? No. She says, you've just been really sick, and that you're going to be okay now. God's got you. And I'm thinking, oh my. I mean, I couldn't believe it. It felt like I answered a prayer, because I asked God that night. I was in that coma, and I heard my family talking, that I wanted to tell them I loved them. And this was my chance to say, I love you guys, and to me that was powerful, knowing that God had heard that prayer. And then as I started getting stronger each day, it just became evident to me that I needed to read the Bible. I just was longing to read the Bible. And as I opened it up, I was reading from the Psalms and the Gospels, and all of a sudden things that I didn't understand before were clear as day to me. The scriptures came alive, and instead of being a half-hearted believer, I was all in for Jesus. And the truth and the promises He gives me in His Word far outweighed the temporary and fleeting nature this life gives me. As time went on, I did have some down days in the hospital. I remember just feeling so lonely on one of the longest days, it seemed, in the hospital as I stayed there. And I remember looking up at the ceiling and hearing this distinct voice, "Who are you serving?" And I'm thinking, who's this? And I knew who it was, because it was, Jesus' words. He says, "Who are you serving?" And I had remembered reading a passage, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and love your neighbor as yourself." And I was loving the world much more than Jesus. Jesus was second, maybe third sometimes. He was when I had time. That certain instance in my life changed my whole perspective on why I'm here. All life and time are about Jesus. It's not about us or about what we do, what we accomplish, because all that's fleeting and temporary. Our relationship with Jesus is eternal. this experience, it was just so life-changing that it just brought me to the point where I wanted to share it with all the people here at Community Church. So even though I was floundering for a few years in the late teens, after COVID, I came back to community and I said, I'm all in for Jesus. I want to be a part of this church. Even after I was part of this church for 30 some odd years before that, I came back and I knew this was home because it just felt like God wanted to use me here. And I feel like the last 7 years have been the most fruitful and peaceful times of my life that I've ever had. But for those of you who don't know, a few months ago I was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And I know it's going to be a fight, it's going to be a battle, but he got me through a terrible disease in 2018 where people didn't think I was going to make it, and somehow he wasn't done with me. As I was thinking of some of the music that I hear at church, the battle you've already won. That's one of my top songs I go to right now. It's about, I don't know what you're doing, but I know what you've done. I'm fighting a battle that you've already won. I know how the story ends. I will be with you again. And those are such powerful, faithful, promising words that I'm grasping onto today. Because whether I make it through this cancer, through this chemotherapy or not, I win. I win if with you guys and healthy again, or whether he takes me home to be with him. It's a I win situation. But without Jesus, there is no win. He's the guy who gives us the strength and hope and the perseverance to carry on. As you look back at the beginning of my Christian life at community, it was pretty half-hearted. I was going through the motions of being a believer. Being baptized and leading a Bible study doesn't make you a wholehearted follower of Jesus. Knowing Jesus personally and having a relationship is what matters. And that's what teaches you how to grow your faith. So anyway, today I would encourage you, if you are not putting Jesus number one in your life, to get to know him. It'll be worth every minute of it, and you know that you're going to win no matter what happens to you in life. And tomorrow is not guaranteed anyone. So as I tell my family every time I see them, I love you guys. And don't take that for granted. Someone you love, to do it every day, to tell them, because you aren't guaranteed tomorrow. So with that, it's pretty much my story. And God bless you all.